So welcome to the Emerging Water Pollutant in River and Coastal Environment workshop. So this is our first workshop. And I just want to share a bit. This workshop is organized by Water Watch Penang and also School of Chemical Sciences at USM. And this workshop is financially supported by PBA, Perbandanan Bekalan Air Pulau Pinang. Okay, so the purpose of this workshop is to raise our awareness, especially on this emerging water pollutant issue. Okay. So today we are fortunate to have three very talented analysts. Okay. They will be sharing their knowledge with us on this topic. First, we will have Mr. Azroie. He will be sharing with us on the water pollution crisis in Malaysia. Then we have Dr. Summiyah. Dr. Summiyah will be talking about the different types of emerging pollutants that we should be aware of. And then finally, we have Dr. Annette. She's from CEMACS. CEMACS is one of the favorite center of our VC, just in case you guys don't know. Okay, so Dr. Annette will be sharing on plastic pollutants in coastal environment. So all the three panels, they will be given some time to share their knowledge with us. And after that, we will open to question and answer. So during that time, participants can ask any question to them. I'm sure they will be able to answer your queries or your concern. And okay, so right now, we are going to start our event with a quick introduction of Water Watch Penang. So Dr. Hong will be giving us a very short briefing on how and what Water Watch Penang is all about. So Dr. Hong is the manager of Water Watch Penang. He's the contact person of WWP. In case we have anything that is related to WWP, you can ask him. Although the president of WWP is Prof. Tan, the person who is in charge of everything is Dr. Hong. Okay, so Dr. Hong, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you very much, Dr. O. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. O, and thank you very much, and good morning to speakers, Mr. Muhammad Azroie, Dr. Summiyah, and Dr. Annette, as well as all the participants on Zoom and also via Facebook Live. So without further ado, allow me to share a little bit about Water Watch Penang introduction to all of you. Moment, let me share my slides. Here. Okay. Here we go. So very good morning again. I'm Hong. I'm from Water Watch Penang, the manager of Water Watch Penang. So I just want to share a few history about Water Watch Penang here. So we are a non-profit organization set up in the year 1997. So as part of this series or what we call Sustainable Penang Initiative under, you mean in Penang lah. Okay. So our vision here is to create a water saving society. That is our main vision. Okay, being that Penangites are the highest water user, they waste a lot of water. We have been working tirelessly towards educating the public, especially Penangites, to create a water saving society. Of course, we are also looking towards the whole Malaysia as well. So by this year, I think we are turning 24 years old. We are that old already, and yet the job is not done. So our aims here is to promote study, awareness, knowledge, conservation, protection, practice of water saving and climate resilient society. So our activities are in line, and our mission statement is in line with these 6 SDG goals, number 4, number 6, 11, 12, 13, and 17. So with our mission statement here is to educate and transform the public into a water savvy and climate resilient society. Okay, next is to go forward to tell you that about our main activities here. So our core activities here is River and Water Education Awareness Program, that's sponsored usually by PBAPP and MPSP. So this is the one that we have been doing here, and we have also developed modules on global, national, and local water issues, as well as this river water education awareness program, water audit, as well as water footprint. Currently, we are improving, we are developing another module which is on integration of water-related topics into schools' curriculum. So next year, we also, apart from the standard river and water education activities, we do deliver online tailor-made webinars, talks on river and water awareness program for organization of educational institutes. Okay, at this moment, it's more to online lah. We can't do offline or on-site. As per mentioned just now on our core activity, that's the one that we have been doing usually at Penang Botanical Garden. But because of the pandemic, the MCO situation, we can't do it. So all we have to do is do it online, and we demonstrate everything via online. Okay, next year. So another activities here, they're still ongoing. Okay, which is the Water Genius Challenge for schools in Selangor, whereby they participate these activities supported by Salcon, CatNet, and my CDNet. So this one actually is still ongoing. It was supposed to end last year, but because of again the pandemic, we have dragged on and extend it until end of this year. So this is about the water demand management project, water audit, whereby the students take lead and are coordinated by the teachers to reduce water consumption, as well as educate the whole school community. Okay. Another activities here is a river water education program. It's a CSR program. We have engaged one of our partners, Intel, and then also we have the smart water program with Salcon Berhad. We have been having this partnership for more than 10 years until now. So we are still doing this until now. Okay. And of course, we have another one, online, on-site training of trainers program, whereby we hope to educate, to train the water leaders, educators, and teachers so that they can. Okay. Okay. And then the next one is the annual water quiz in Penang and Selangor. Okay, so this one we have in Penang one and one in Selangor. So every year we have not every year. Okay lah. This year and last year we are still unable to do it. So for this one we tested the students with global water issues, national water issues, and local water issues, as well as other environmental problems and knowledge lah. And of course we do have water exhibitions. And of course, this is another one, annual, except for last year and this year, the World Water Day celebration, whereby we have a coloring contest, and then with every year's theme and campaign, we have exhibitions, as well as we have a speech by our CM here. And another activities is in collaboration with Yokohama City University and USM, and of course with Prof. Chan taking the lead in this. We organize day courses in collaboration with them on sustainable urban development course. And also, being that Penang is a water stress state, and our water depends on the Ulu Muda water catchment area. So we also have advocacy and campaign work for Ulu Muda protection and conservation work lah. And next, again, I would like to stress, Penang is a water stress state, and our usage are very high. So we are also looking into like water demand management projects, okay, whereby we man this, we take a lead in coordinating rainwater harvesting and installation of water saving equipments in N-Park condominium at that time, whereby this project has seen a 30% reduction in water consumption. Okay, next here. This is our latest project with Yayasan Hasana. We have this project with on a community empowerment program to increase the livelihood of fishery communities through additional income generation and increase of participation through IRBM. Okay, these are the things that we are having right now. And also we have been a technical consultant in organizing seminars, conference, workshop. This one is with WWF Malaysia earlier this year. And also just ended last week, which is the APEC workshop, Asia Pacific economic cooperation in enhancing participation in flood disaster preparedness through community-based hazard mapping. This one also we have been a partner, technical partner with them in organizing together with Global Environment Center, UPM, and Malaysia Water Partnership. And another one is we have a project consultant with ThinkCity, whereby we organize, we did research and still going on the river pollution mapping project, and also public survey on water issues. And upcoming activities and services, we are developing River Education Center at Taman Jajah Sungai. This container itself is going to be this the River and Water Education Center, but we are still waiting for permit. Okay, it is in the process of permit application to put this container via the land office. Another one is we are planning out now on a tailor-made drone survey lessons for beginners, as well as we are going to have a virtual camp, Marine Science and Technology virtual camp in collaboration with CEMACS next week. In 3 more weeks, whereby the grand prize is a drone. So it's only for 13 to 18 years old of participant. Okay, I think we don't have much time here. I will skip this corporate video. You can view it from our website. Okay, just to show you, those are some of our partners here. Okay, our partners span from corporate partners, education institutes, NGO, and government agencies. Okay, so while we are still growing, despite 24 years, we are still growing, and we hope that the public can support us, okay, by donating to us, because this kind of conservation, we need fundings to work on, and then we need support, and also follow us on social media. Okay, with that, thank you very much. I'd like to hand over to Dr. O again.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hong. A very, very interesting presentation on Water Watch Penang. Okay, so for those of you who are interested to join us, Water Watch Penang, please feel free to drop us an email. Okay, we are more than happy to guide you through the registration process. Okay, so as you know, together we can make a difference. As an individual, we can also make a difference, right? So what is the most important thing is that we take the first step, in the first action. So without wasting any time, let's welcome Mr. Azroie. Mr. Azroie to share his knowledge on this current pollution crisis in Malaysia. And Mr. Azroie is from NAHRIM. He has been a long supporter of USM. We know each other for quite some time. I think 2 to 3 years already, right? So he is very, very knowledgeable in this area. He conducts a lot of research on water-related work in Malaysia. Okay, so Mr. Azroie, would you like to share your slides? I think you are muted. So
okay.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. O. Thank you, Dr. O and thank you, Dr. Hong. Okay, to distinguished speaker as well, Dr. Anne, Dr. Summiyah. Okay. Slideshow. Okay. Assalamualaikum and very good morning to all the participants and viewers. For today's program, I would like to present on you on the current river pollution crisis in Malaysia, current issue lah. So without further ado, so when we're talking about water crisis, water issue, water pollution issue, it's all about water. So where do we get our water source? From the surface water, from groundwater, rainwater, and desalination water. But mainly here in Malaysia, we highly depend on surface water, such as the river, lake, reservoir, etc. Okay, by defining river, river itself is a creek or natural stream of water course or any tributary that's or artificial deviation and thereof, means that area of land from which all surface runoff flows through a sequence of stream, rivers into the river mouth. Meaning, we not consider the river as this blue line. The river itself is an area that contributing to input the water inside the system. So here, for example, this river is made of one main river and the catchment that contributing the the water input into the system. So from the upstream until the downstream, reaching the coastal area, we consider it as a river basin. So this river basin is an area for this one river system. You don't consider the river as the blue line itself. No, we consider the river as the whole area that contributing to the system. We call it as river basin. Here in Malaysia, we have about 2,986 river basin, lembangan sungai in Malay. So, but the area that the size area more than 80 kilometer per kilometer is 189 river basin. More than 80 kilometers square. So here we have the famous river of Klang and Gombak at KL, and the longest river in Malaysia of Rajang. Rajang covers around 50,000 kilometers square of area, meaning around 15% of total area of Malaysia itself. Malaysia, the land mass, the total area is around 330 kilometers square. But if you compare to other countries such as Korea, they only have 4 river basins: the Han, the Gyum, the Yonsa, and Natong. We have 2,000 plus river basins, or 189, the big river basin. Compared to Korea, we have the most river per area. Something about river. So everyone living near the river basin, human activity should result in negative impact to river, correct? Where there is a population, a community, the river system nearby will be affected in positive way or negative way, but usually in negative way. Public awareness of our impact to river and their environment is very critical. Integrated water resource management or river basin management are closely related approach on water resource. How you manage the river is closely related. Establishment of institution and legislation law is vital to proper river basin management to protect the river. Water demand continue to increase. The population increase is also, so does the water demand increase. Economic development closely linked to water supply. Problem in present management of river basin. Many engineers involved. You have Department of Environment. You have Department of the Irrigation and Drainage. You have us, NAHRIM. You have the state agency. So there is no coordination between these agencies, no coordination between states. They have their own law. They have their own policy to manage the river system. So this is due to rapid development environment that will lead to flash flood, increasing demand for clean water, supply problem, pollution, erosion, destruction, and depletion of aquatic life. When there's development, the river water is also affected. So where do we get our water? What is our water resource here in Malaysia? Total rainfall that falls down onto the land mass area of Malaysia is around 971 billion cubic meter per year. So from this, from the rainfall come touching the ground, surf around on the surface of the ground, encounter around 494 billion cubic meter, 41%. Some of it go to the underground and some of it evaporate. Malaysia needs around 20 billion cubic meter of water. So for example, for that 494 flow into the river, the surface, 403 billion cubic meters go directly to the sea. We only managed to secure the water, to preserve, to reserve the water by dams, reservoir, pond, and lake, only around 40 billion cubic meters. Unlike Singapore, where we talk about this, how much we let our fresh water go into the sea, the Singapore, they lock their river system before going to the sea. They have this marine reservoir. Malaysia water demand is around 20 billion cubic meter. Singapore demand is around 1,300,000 cubic meter. This reservoir itself is accounted 10% of the demand. The land area of Singapore is very small than Malaysia, 300 kilometers square. How big is Penang? I want to ask you. Penang is bigger than Singapore, around 1,000 plus, if I'm not mistaken. And the population for Malaysia and Singapore is also different. So this land area of Singapore, they can manage well their water reservoir. So the rainfall that falls down around that this figure, 9,700 billion cubic meter, the whole cover of land mass of area Malaysia is around 2.5 centimeter. But this abundance of water that we receive, we still have deficit of water supply at Malacca, at Selangor, at Pulau Pinang. Because why? Because the demand is very, very high. We use it for drinking water. We use it to irrigate our paddy field, for our for herding, for fishery. We use a lot of water, and this keep increasing with time. We use it for our daily life, for toilet, for laundry, for bathing, for cooking. How much water do we need? So this actually will lead to river pollution crisis in Malaysia. When we're talking about river pollution crisis happen when we have this standard, water quality standard by DOE, by Department of Environment, by the Ministry of Health, that we cannot follow anymore. We cannot follow the standard that have been stated by the government. When we fail to follow this standard, then we have a crisis in pollution, water pollution. So from the KKM, from MOH, they have 100 plus of standards. For DOE, they have 100 also plus of standard. For marine water standard, for discharge from industry standard. For other standards like Putrajaya and NAHRIM, they have standard for lakes also. These standards is about water quality parameter. Each parameter that we have to follow. We're talking about dissolved oxygen standard. We're talking about BOD standard. We're talking about chemical oxygen COD standard. We're talking about heavy metal standard. What is that permitted value that can be allowed to present inside the water system? These standards is catered by law that we have made. Since 1920, we have Water Act in law of Malaysia. We have in state like Water Kerajaan for water supply enactment to preserve, to protect their water resource. And also the trend called water quality trend since 2000 until now, 2019, is quite fluctuating. Sometimes it will get very good, then it will get decrease, then later on it keep increasing. So we can see here the number of river that they are by DOE, by Department of Environment monitored. 61% that they monitored is considered as clean. 30% semi-polluted and 9% very polluted. But you can see the number of clean river is increasing, but the number of polluted river also increasing. Should be decreased. So the trend in river water pollution is in terms of water quality index. We take account of how good the water quality of the river system. We use this type of index, water quality index. So as I mentioned, the clean river increasing, slightly increases 61%, but also the percentage of polluted river also slightly increased from 8 to 9%. So all the 372 river monitored by DOE shows that the main how you say contributed to the pollution is by this parameter such as biochemical oxygen demand, amonium nitrogen as suspended solid. BOD is attributed to inefficient treatment of sewage or effluent from agro-based and manufacturing industry. Ammonia attributed from animal farming and domestic sewage. When you get this very, very putrid smell, that's the ammonia. And suspect solid it's mainly due to improper earthwork and then cleaning activity. When you get this brownish color of the water system, is due to this suspended sediment. Suspended solid. So for example, for Klang River, the whole stretch of Klang, this is the main river basin. Then this is the water catchment, the river catchment that contributed to River Klang. So you can see it's mixed between good and bad water quality. The good is the first class, second class, semi-good. Third class is the semi-polluted, fourth is polluted, and fifth is very, very polluted. So you have this mixture of this type of water quality that contributing to Sungai Klang. How about heavy metals? This parameter is very, very also important, such as mercury, arsenic, cadmium, all contributing to the water quality inside the river water system. When we're thinking about heavy metal, we think the first thought is due to the industry area. Heavy metal also come from the mining sectors, where you have earthworks, where such as the tin mining in upstream. They dig out all the earth, the soil from the earth. Can also will flush also out the arsenic, mercury, and also all this type of heavy metals that contributing to that polluted the river water system. But the water that you drink, 94.5% for the 55% monitoring session shows good. It shows a good clean water quality. Only 5.5% are slightly polluted, meaning like class 3, something like that. Meaning it's okay, but they use a very, very high treatment. They use a lot of treatment or water treatment approach. We need water, but when it comes to class 3, you have to treat the water, but that will incur the water tariff. So the river itself will flow eventually to the seas. So as you can see, at 2019, around 11 river mouth or Muara Sungai is considered polluted, usually at Penang, Selangor, or Johor. And why does this happen? What are the challenges? Because we are increasingly demand for treated water, not raw water, treated water. The tap water that you've been using at your house, the drinking water you've been buying at shops. So when the increasing demand, when the demand is increased, the availability, the resource also decrease. And when that happens, you have crisis. You have water shortage. And eventually, you have water pollution. Because why? Because the high development. We can't escape from development. But with proper management, we can control the pollution. So it's all interrelated from the low water reservoir reserve, the pollution, how you funding the infrastructure for water treatment plant. It's all interrelated. So this pollution I want to talk about for today's session, there is two type of source. One is point and non-point source. Simple. I think you have heard of this. One side is you can identify the source of pollution from the factory, from the housing area, from IWK, from STP. Of non-point side is usually from the surface runoff, usually cover around area of cropland, the surface area from the cities. You can identify the source of pollution. So this type of pollution, there is two types. One is the conventional type of pollution, which is to describe water pollution that is amenable to treatment, that you can treat. When you have low DO, you can treat to increase the DO. When you have high BOD, you can treat the water to decrease the BOD or COD content or other chemical parameters such as ammonia and nutrient. And also, it's a basic list. It's already inside the law that I mentioned to you, the Water Act, the Penang Water Enactment. Is also the water quality parameter is there. It also is stated in the law. But there's new type of pollution, which is emerging type of pollution, EPs, which is synthetic or naturally occurring chemical that are not commonly monitored. It's new thing, but which have the potential to enter the environment and cause non-suspectable ecology or human health effects. This will be explained by Dr. Summiyah, what I'm talking about. What are these emerging pollutants? Okay, when you're talking about water, this type of pollution, the first thing in mind that I shown to you, this standards is all in concentration based. Meaning, okay, from this source of pollution to enter the water system for BOD, you have to be not more than 50 ppm, for example. Below 50 ppm is permitted to enter the water system, to be present in the water system. You can give him the standard base, for example. That is a concentration based of perspective. What about loading? Have you heard about loading? Water pollution load is a pollution load source that are emphasized in environmental quality report by DOE, which are manufacturing industry, agriculture-based industries, sewage treatment plant, piggery, wet. These are the contributors of loading the chemicals, loading the pollutants. Pollutant load is mainly focused on the three main parameters such as BOD, suspended solid, and metaconstituent. For time being, that you can have other parameters also, but for Malaysian case, we are trying to cater these three main parameters first. What is loading? You have the concentration base, just now I mentioned, in ppm, in ppt, milligram per liter, etc. In loading base is concentration times water, the flow of the water in cubic meter per second. So you have loading per kilogram per day. Liter with this cubic meter, you cancel, you have milligram, kilometer into kilogram, and second kilometer to day. So in one day, how much the chemical pollutant been loading into the river water system by this certain area or certain industry. So what are the loading pollution source, such as STP, wet market, waste disposal site, farm, aquaculture, from your car wash, from Dobby, it's all keep loading. When they keep discharging this effluent, it's actually they're loading the chemical into the system. Okay, for example, you have two water quality results for BOD. One is 15 milligram per liter, one is 20 milligram per liter. One is follow the standard A of DOE, one is follow the standard B of permitted discharge into the system of standard B, 50 milligram per liter. But this of discharge pipe from the industry, and they also discharge of the industry. When you take water quality analysis from these two type of area, you get this on your left you got 50, and on your right you got 20. Then first thing you come in your mind, you say, oh, this area on the left is very, very polluted. You can't say that. How many flow of water be discharged to the system? So you have to calculate the flow also. What happens is, from this system on the left is around 5,000 PE oxidation pond. So it's been loading into the system 56 kilogram per day. Comparing to this with 20 milligram per liter of water quality analysis of BOD, it's been loading the pollutant around 1,800 kilograms per day. So this on your right picture is very, very it is the main culprit of the pollutant comparing to the on your right side. So you have to think about the loading. Every time, every second, every day, how much the chemical being pouring inside the system. this is the formula. So you have concentration times the flow and time order the conversion factor. So you have this loading factor, kilogram per day. Only for continuous discharge, such as the industry, from the factory, from the farming, you can count how much they've been loading into the system. Okay, when they're loading into the system, into the river, from this factory into the channel of and eventually go into the river system, you have this dilution factor. In essence, the bigger the volume of receiving water body, the bigger dilution factor. Yes, when you pour chemical for construction or loading inside the system, the water itself can assimilate, can in sense of cleaning the diluted the effect. In summary, the volume of wastewater released into the river will depend on the final concentration of the mixture. So they will mix, then it become ambient, neutral, natural, clean back, cleaner. You're talking about these two types of river, the shallow river or the big river. Which one can cater the loading? Of course, the big river compared to the shallow river. But if this big river can absorb the pollutant load, they have this, how we say, the capability of the river itself, have this estimated capacity of the river. How much can it be load to the river itself? This river, how much can it cater, manage the pollutant? So if the pollution load less than estimated capacity of the river, the water quality is maintained. But if the pollution is very, very high, this kilang A, kilang B, factory A, factory B, contributing to the river, more than 100 factory contributing to the river. So it's more, the loading is very high to the estimated capacity of the river, then the water quality will be impaired. That's the logic. So in countries such as America, Korea, and Japan and China, they have introducing this approach using TMDL, which is total maximum daily load. In Japan, they not just monitor the concentration effluent of the discharge from their factory. They also watching the loading quantity that be discharged into the Seto Inland Sea. Seto is this part. This Honshu, I think Honshu and Shikoku Island of Japan, is heavy industrialized, heavy populated by population. So everything is contributed here. So they have made a law that whatever discharge from this area, from this land area, you have to make it half than the COD loading last since 1972. Okay, what about Penang? You estimate here inside the island, the Seberang Perai. You have many industry area here producing electronic, food factory, manufacturing area, textile factory. For this land area of Penang, around 9,000 km², if I'm not mistaken. All this area being covered by all this river system. The main river, Sungai Perai, Sungai Juru, Sungai Kurian, and Sungai Penang from the island. This area where we can see the development is very high population, high density. All the pollution come from the industrial area, go to the river and eventually to the sea. So how will you address the issue? For this purpose of program, I'm talking about more on Penang itself. So the issue, the pollution issue from Penang, we can say as Sungai Juru since 2016, as Sungai Nipah, and by Lempas, we have this pollution different discharge to the system. And you can see last year during MCO, the discharge from the city itself, before and after MCO, you can see the black color, very, very distinguished. Meaning after MCO, the river is healing, starting to healing. The river, this Sungai Penang, if I'm not mistaken. From the Seberang Perai, you have the aquaculture, the industry, the farming area. they've been feeding the fish with pellets, with vitamins, with antibiotics. Then eventually we end up at the river at quantity, sungai quantity. From the prawn farming also, they eventually go to the system. When you go to the system, the high nutrient, high content of pollution will, such as ammonia, will cause fish fatality at the river mouth. So it will incur loss to the fish farmer, fish herding. You have also palm oil industry from the discharge from the industry. You have discharge from the paddy field, from the farming of fruits, orchards, using fertilizer, using pesticide, all been discharging, eventually end up into the river system nearby. And you guys, we been using the water for living. So you just imagine how much money, effort to treat this water, to be clean, so PBIP can distribute the clean water to your tap water. From the city itself, when you have the high number of car wash, but during episode I think there's no more car wash, less car wash. But from Dobby, from laundry, not only they discharge chemical detergent inside the system, they also discharge microfiber. They will explain better by Dr. Ann. Microfiber is a microplastic thermoplastic from your nylon garments. Inside the system, go to the sea, the fish eat the microfiber. There's plastic inside the fish. The grey water from the laundry, from your household, all go inside the system. And also from you can say this Sungai Penang. What happened here with surface runoff and high development, the sediment, the surface runoff bring out the sediment, end up in the river, and eventually you can see the river of Sungai Penang become more shallow and shallower. But the idea will eventually dug up the sediment back. That will incur cost due to high development. We have to bear the cost. Okay, at Seberang Perairan, anybody from Tasiglugo? Okay, I want to mention this issue. Since 1980, there's the issue of pig farming at Kampung Selamat, if I'm not mistaken. So nowadays, what happened is Kampung Selamat animal herders being discharging their animal waste inside the Sungai Kere and Sungai Perai. So what happened is the people around there complain of foul smell. The fish is the fish living in the area is found to be dead. No more fish. Dirty the river. So everybody make a aduan, make a complaint. What have the government been doing to help the people at Tasiglugo at Seberang Perairan? So at Seberang Perairan, there is around 77 pig farm. This is the registered one. The unregistered one, the illegal one, we don't know. So we can say around 200. That's what I've been told by the Department of Veterinary. So they give it discharging this animal waste into the Sungai Kere and eventually to Sungai Perai. So you can see here the black color is from the farm. This animal waste being mixed with the river water. So the people around this Tasiglugo, being the farmers, the paddy farmers, been complaining because these people living beside the river. So they could be complaining of foul smell, the fish rotten at the riverbed. This thing is unpleasant to them. So they keep complaining because you can see the discharge from the Kampung Selamat being contributing to the water pollution. So when investigated, the pig farm have their own water treatment system, but it's not well managed. But this Mr. Wong from this Kampung Selamat, they have upgraded their pig farm to become closed system. So you have better water treatment facility. The solid waste they they convert it into a fertilizer. So the discharge, this discharge from this pig farm is according to the standard B by DOE. He follow. This one guy follow. What about the rest? So the government have a make effort. We can't simply shut down this pig farm. We can't simply say, hey, we don't need this pig farm, we shut it down. No, this pig farm also contributed to the economy of the country, to the state. And also this guy, Mr. Wong, is made a living from this, but he has to follow the requirement, the policy, the law. So we've been assisting them to make a closed system farming system. In the meantime, we monitor, we do the treatment as well. So it's integrated government and public to well manage the crisis. Okay, from the Sungai Penang, what is this? What you can see here is the solid waste, the plastic, the paper, all the waste from the city being discarded right into the Sungai Penang. These are the issue lah. Sungai Pulau Penang, very famous for nasi kandar. They use high volume of oil and fats. What you can see here, the piping that been flashing out to the drain is all fats from the nasi kandar, from the curry. Oh, what happened? So how you want to address here? So the river, the other pollution crisis is the emerging pollutant. Other than the normal conventional pollution, this we can talk about emerging pollutants such as EDC. This will be better explained by Dr. Summiyah. And also microplastic. This will be better explained by Dr. Anne. Malaysia is second in the world contributing of plastic waste inside the river system. But this is according to Mayor et al. But if we look other researchers from laboratory, Malaysia is not in the list. So this thing being done by other researchers. Now we want our own researcher from our local university to do the research to come up with these findings. We don't want to depend on the other people's finding. They don't know our situation. So this type of people we put Malaysia very negative perspective. Malaysia is highly polluted in plastic waste. We don't want that. So what you can do, we recycle the waste. We recycle the plastic that we use. You can sell the plastic waste for 40 cents per kilo to reduce the plastic waste. So there is other emerging pollutants such as from the biological side, from E. coli. E. coli is a standard parameter for water pollution indicator. But what about E. coli that resistant to antibiotic? There is present inside our river system. Whereas when this person infected by this E. coli, any antibiotic cannot cure your illness. You will eventually die. Happen in Malaysia. So be very aware. And this a new issue, odor pollution at Sungai Selangor. What happened? We have this source of that contribute to the foul smell inside the river system from man and natural cause. So our government has been also identified this as a new type of emerging pollutants. But this type of parameter, odor parameter has not been described inside the law, inside our standard. There's no such thing. But at Europe, they have also established this standard. So all that pollution crisis sounds very morbid to you, sounds very scary. But this, can we live with this type of pollution? What we can do? You have to do two approach. You cure the system, and after you cure the system, you prevent it. You do a preventive measure. What is the cure measure? What is the curative? You do the treatment. You improve the river system, the river structure. You do the water quality improvement. You treat the pollution. Then after you treat, you have to prevent it from it happen again. So you have a river conservation. You have the innovative product to trap the fat, oil, and grease from entering our system. You have this innovative product that we can increase the dissolved ozone inside the river water system. You can trap the fat using our innovative product. this type of research been done by our local researcher. So how about the plastic waste, the been floating inside the river system? You can make a gross pollutant trap. You can trap the waste. You can trap the waste from the drain. And then you make guideline. This is just a guideline to how to well manage your river, your water resource. Then you have a monitoring and enforcement. You have monitor and enforcement to make sure that our river system is well managed and well cared, well maintained by using this monitoring system. This water is actually a commodity to us, not just the clean water, but also the wastewater. We can turn our wastewater into a commodity. We can recycle back the wastewater they can be turned into a chemical can be used for other purpose. We can use it. There is technology for this purpose. Then all this effort actually is being funded by the government, and to save our government as well in the future in facing the water disaster, water crisis, to generate economy and to create more job for the local people. So these are the effort. You want to protect the water, and these are the benefits we can get. So this our government initiative. We have this circular type of approach, how you manage your water, how you treat the water, how you monitor the water. So it's like a circular integrated movement by our government. So this we can see at other countries such as Europe, France, Korea. When they have treat the water, they preserve the water system, the river. They can become a tourist attraction. The people, local people, they can appreciate the beauty of the river system. You can have the people being cruising around the river of France. The people are at Chongyongchong River at South Korea. People come down to the river because it's clean, it's no more dirty. Then when people appreciate the beauty of the water, then people start to care about the water. What about the future? When I say water is commodity, water can produce money for you. You can use water to generate electricity, power. You can trap all the rainwater that's been falling into the ground, other than be wasted into the sea. We can store the water like Japan be doing at Japan. They store underground the water. Then when you have this type of industry, river tourist industry, you have river cruise at France, at Sydney. You can make people appreciate water when you can produce river tourism. Like this at Korea, at Switzerland. This river, at this narrow piece of land at Switzerland, they have a mini zoo. You can see here, this actually a brown bear, a European bear. People start appreciating, oh, there's a bear there. Then while they're cruising, strolling down the river at Japan. So people try to appreciate. When you start doing your part, the government has doing their part. You yourself have to do your part yourself as well. Like this at Bosnia, people start coming there, having nice time there. Then we can build a city or hotel at the water. You can make aquaculture. You can make money from the water. When there's good water, you can make a commodity. We can make profit from it. So this is our river before. Very, very dirty, yellowish. Then people start throwing rubbish into the river. They don't care. They want. You can see a live monitor, biawak there, swimming there. But what about we clean our river? People start jogging beside the river. There's beautiful vegetation here, lilies. You have the river tourism. People start to appreciate. This is the future that we want. This is our target, our national target, people's target, rakyat Malaysia punya target. We want a clean river. If the Korean can do it, if the Switzerland can do it, why not us? If the Singapore can do it, our neighbor, why not us? We can do it. So with that, I thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for the wonderful talk, Mr. Azroie. So I learned a lot from your presentation, especially on the water pollution issue, the crisis. So to sum up what you said just now. So in fact, our country has a lot of regulation, okay, to ensure that our water is clean. And well, water pollution happens everywhere, right? So we can have water pollution in Penang, we can have water pollution in Johor, especially Pasir Gudang. Right? I heard that the water there is quite polluted. So in Penang, we are fortunate to have a PPA to help us to clean the water and to ensure that whatever reaches the consumer is very, very clean and drinkable, and it's free of pollutant. Just that, well, I would say that it's a two-way thing. So whatever they can do to help us is just up to a certain level. We ourselves also have to make sure that the water is preserved, and we cannot just simply throw something into the river.
So correct.
Right. So yeah, thank you so much for your wonderful talk. So we will go for the question and answer later after every presenter has presented. Okay. So the next presenter, we will have Dr. Summiyah. Okay. Dr. Summiyah received a bachelor's degree from UMT, and she did her PhD in environmental chemistry and wastewater treatment at USM. Right. So you can see that she's young. Okay. Despite her young age, you can she has more than 10 years of experience. 10 years of experience in environmental chemistry and wastewater treatment. So she is quite knowledgeable in this emerging pollutant. So okay, without wasting any more time, Summiyah, the stage is yours. You can share your slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Uwenda. Can you see my slide?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yep.
Wait. Okay, can you see my slide now?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to you all. Hi, I'm Dr. Summiyah Sabar. First of all, I would like to thank Water Watch Penang for giving me this opportunity, and also to Dr. Uwenda for approaching me to give this talk. I was also quite amazed with the talk given by Encik Azroie. It's quite interesting to know the current status of our river waters in Malaysia. So today's topic, I will discuss about emerging river water pollutants. So I will discuss a bit on what is the problem faced by the global, and then try to also give some examples of the cases occurring in Malaysia. So this is the outline of my topic today. First, I will discuss what is emerging pollutants or EPS, and then I will discuss how this emerging pollutants comes into our water system or waterways, river water, and then I'll discuss about the occurrence and its distribution, the threats, how does it impact or give bad influence to our community, and then its possible treatments method, and then lastly I just conclude some of the important things from the topic. Okay, so if we can compare the volume of the earth to the drops of water, okay, we might think that the earth, the shape of the earth is big, and then we have a lot of blue colors indicating that there's a presence of water, but do not be surprised that actually the water is just a thin of film covering the earth's surface. Okay, so the total volume of water, if we compare the total volume of water with the total volume of the earth, the water is actually cover only 71% of the earth's surface, and this one droplet is equivalent to 1,385 kilometer in diameter. And then from there, there's actually only 2.5% of water that are consumable or can be consumed by human. Okay, and these tiny droplets is equivalent to 272.8 kilometers in diameter. But not all of these water are accessible to human consumption, because this also comes from glaciers or frozen water which are not accessible to human. So actually the amount of water that are accessible for us is less than 1%. And these tiny droplets indicate that as compared to the volume of the water that are accessible to us, as compared to the volume of the earth, is only about 56 kilometer in diameter. Okay, so it's actually the number of the volume of water that are available for us is very, very limited. And this 1% comes from different sources such as rivers. Okay, so the main rivers or the main water sources of Penang Gates comes from Sungai Muda. And then we can also have water from groundwater, lakes such as Tasik Kenyir, and then dams. In Penang, we have 3 dams, which is the Aitam, Mengkuang Dam, and also the Teluk Bahang dams. Okay, so and then we also have ponds, for example, from the unused quarry that are being left. Okay, so these water sources, okay, they have been in times when our country are having problems with the water shortage. So the government have tried to they are trying to look for alternative water. Okay, so there has been suggestion using lake water, for example, Tasik Putrajaya as a water resource, or groundwater as a possible source of water source. But the question that we need to answer is how much actually there is a clean water that are safe, clean and safe for us and also our future generation. So the amount of water that are accessible to us does not guarantee that it is clean and safe, because some of these water sources, they are being monitored by the water quality index. For example, in Malaysia, we monitor based on water quality index, but some of this water, they are new and research about them are very limited. So this is what we call emerging pollutants. Okay, so with the increase of the growing population, and also the number of food production that needs to cope or to provide to the number of growing population. So the food industry also have increases, and of course with the new development in pharmaceuticals or product care, we use high amount of cosmetic products or pharmaceuticals, because these products is a good business. It's a good business, and everyone they promise the product that they produce. They promise to give good health, or you can look better when you wear all these things. Okay, so that's why it has increased a lot of its production by almost 51% from 2017 to 2023. Okay, and people also spend a lot of their money to be healthy. They spend a lot of money on food supplements, and also there are now a lot of products available to treat, for example, cancer, high blood pressures, and so on. So this has led to the increased number of chemicals being registered in chemical abstract services. So right now, since 1990, there are about 110 millions of chemicals that have been registered. So most of these chemicals, they are newly produced, and most of them have not been thoroughly investigated in terms of their risk and also their toxicity. So what is emerging pollutants? So emerging pollutants, or EPS, are defined as synthetic or naturally occurring compounds that are not often monitored but have the potential to enter the environment, causing known or suspected ecological and human health. So there are these compounds or chemicals, they are considered as emerging pollutants because there's not a lot of studies being done on them in order to understand their effect or their ecological and also human health effect. Most of the treatment plants available, conventional treatment plant, they are not capable of treating these types of pollutants because most of the time they exist in a very low concentration. Okay, they are very less than 1 ppb or parts per million. So the conventional treatment plants that are available even in our own country are not sufficient to treat these pollutants. So the terms emerging, actually they are not new pollutant. There have been a number of reported articles on the emerging pollutants. What it means that basically these pollutants have existed for quite some time, but because there's a limited studies on them, they are not considered as a serious pollutant to us. Okay, so for example, the first study on the steroid hormones was reported in 1965. So that at that time, the steroids are considered as the emerging pollutants. Okay, so they have found that steroid hormones have been found in wastewater and also on inside the surface water. Okay, and these steroids in the end can end up in our drinking water. Again, in 1970, since then people have started talking about steroid hormones and how they can be metabolized inside the treatment plant by microorganisms. And then in 1971, with the advancement of chemical analysis of pollutants, so in 1971, GCMS is a new instrument. So people have tried to analyze water samples, and they have detected that a few of organic compounds have been detected in the water system. So here we have steroids that can be divided into its metabolites, which is cholesterol and corpusclinol, and it has been detected in raw water and also in activated sludge. Okay, so and then also caffeine. So who is a coffee lover here? Whatever you drink, whenever you drink the coffee and your is excreted as a waste, it can be detected in the raw water system and also in the treated water. Okay, so it's difficult to treat this type of pollutant. And then with the advancement of the technology, again, we see new chemicals being detected. So for example, in 2003, with the advancement in the liquid chromatography, tandem mass spectrometry, they have started to detect endocrine disruptors, pharmaceuticals, and personal care products in the water. Okay, so again, with the advancement, this is back in 2003, and now we are in 2021. So with the advancement, you will expect to see more of these emerging pollutants to be reported in our water system. In fact, this is also one of the top 10 priority lists of the environmental health issue in Malaysia. So the Ministry of National Environmental Health Action Plan has outlined that these are the issues that need to be tackled. And the number 3 here is the contamination of drinking water sources and emerging pollutants. This has come into highlight due to the detection of endocrine disrupting chemicals, pharmaceuticals, drugs, and also personal care products in our river water. So where does these emerging pollutants come from? Okay, they can come from pharmaceuticals. Of course, pharmaceuticals have appear to be one of the most dominant contributor of our emerging pollutants. So they can be antibiotics, they can be antidepressant, and so on. Okay, and then for personal care product, we use shampoos, we use a facial wash, and so on. These products also contribute to the emerging pollutants, and with some of them, they are also endocrine disruptor. And then besides that, from our cleaning products, we have various types of cleaning products. They also contribute to some emerging pollutants. Some of them are also known as microplastics, which Dr. Annette will discuss more later. And then we also have pesticides and herbicides that are widely used in agriculture. So these herbicides and pesticides, they can be transferred into our water system through the runoff, surface runoff, or storm water. So there are actually about 700 of compounds that has been identified as the emerging pollutants. So they can come from different sources. As I mentioned, human pharmaceutical is the largest source or contributor of emerging pollutants. We have water disinfection byproducts, gasoline additive, manufactured nanomaterials. So these nanomaterials, they are so small that they are not being able to be treated properly. Veterinary pharmaceuticals, so these contribute to the estrogens or some of the antibiotics into our water system. UV filters, okay, personal care products, flame retardants, polybrominated diphenyl ethers, and also perfluorinated compounds. So all these emerging pollutants, they can travel in the soil, water, and air, which in the end will give some negative impact to our humans, our health system, and also they can also give impacts to animals, plants, and also microorganisms. So here are some of the examples of the major emerging contaminants groups. So the pharmaceutical, as I mentioned, is the largest contributor. So it can come from antibiotic and also veterinary, analgesics, anti-inflammatory drugs, psychiatric drugs, and so on. So some of the examples are given here: trimethoprim, amoxicillin, and so on. Okay, so these you can see they have different types of pollutants that are difficult for us to really focus on one type of pollutant to be treated. So when you are developing a treatment system for these pollutants, we have to take into consideration of that it is not going to be treating only one type of pollutants. So it should be able to treat majority of the pollutants that are being emitted into the waterways. Okay. So some other examples are hormones and steroids, perfluorinated compounds, surfactant and surfactant metabolites. So flame retardants such as polybrominated diphenyl ethers, polybrominated biphenyls, polybrominated dibenzopyridines, and so on. Okay. So next, I would like to discuss about the occurrence and its distribution. So I think among the studies that have alerted people about the emerging pollutants are those that are reported in 1996. Okay, the emerging pollutants is not new because it has been detected in surface water throughout the world, Europe, Asia, Canada, and USA. So the latest this paper that was published in 1996 discussed about the pharmaceuticals, hormones, and other organic contaminants in US system or US streams. So this study was conducted and it has highlighted that there were about 95 compounds being present in 139 streams throughout the US. Okay, so these compounds, they come from pharmaceuticals, they come from personal products, endocrine, and some of them, they are also endocrine disruptor system that have raised the concern among the community and also the government. So it has been estimated that about 90% of the unused drugs and those that are being consumed by human end up in our water supply. Okay, is either is unused of drugs or those that are consumed, because once you consume these drugs, they can be metabolized or they can be bioactive once they are discharged into the water system. And studies have shown that when you flush the medicals or your medicine, they can harm the aquatic life. Okay, later I'll show you some of the cases where they have found that what these drugs can do to our fisheries and also our organism. So these emerging pollutants, they can come from different sources. They can come from the wastewater and treatment plants. So our conventional wastewater treatment plants cannot treat these emerging pollutants. So in the end, when they discharge the treated water, they also discharge these emerging pollutants. Okay, and the emerging pollutants can also come from pharmaceutical industry. So the pharmaceutical industries, they have produced large amount of different products that in the end will be discharged or they will leak into the water system. Besides that, the sewage system and also the unused and properly disposed of unused medical or medicine from the hospital can also end up in our streams and water system. Besides that, human activities for we use personal care products, we use pesticide, we use cleaning products, and also medical products or that can in the end will leak into our water system, either through our sewage system or through our leakage from our treatment system to the wastewater treatment plant. Besides that, we also use a lot of pesticides and herbicides. Some of these herbicides and pesticides, they are new and their effects to our health are still unknown. Okay, previously the most common used pesticide is DDT, but we now know that it's no longer safe to consume DDT as pesticide. And then some of the children toys also contain bisphenol A, which is dangerous to human, and they can in the end up in our water system. So the problem with the emerging pollutant is that their concentration in the water body is very, very low. Okay, so they can be, usually they are in the magnitude of ppb or microgram per liter or less, much less than that. So how much is 0.01 ppb? So if you want to compare, one drop 0.0 ppb is equal to 1 drop of water in an Olympic size swimming pool. Is also equivalent to one stem in a 111,000 hay of bales. Is also equivalent to one baked bean in 21 million cans of baked beans. Okay, so that is how low is the concentration of these pollutants in our water system. So it's very difficult to detect these pollutants without the use of modern modern analytical techniques. So here are some of the reported cases of emerging pollutants that have been detected in our rivers. Okay, so for example, the study conducted by Muhammad Khalid et al. They have determined the concentration of caffeine in Terengganu River basins. So this is the concentration range that they obtained from 384 to 426 nanogram per liter. And then Faut et al. Have conducted this study in 2014 in Langat and Muar River. They have detected caffeine and dichlorphenac. So the concentration they obtained is from 138 to 760 nanogram per liter. And dichlorphenac is a little bit lower, which is around 54 nanogram per liter. So there have been many studies conducted in Malaysia to indicate that there is a trace amount of emerging pollutants in our water system that can mainly come from the three main sources, which are the pharmaceuticals, personal care products, and also some endocrine disrupting substances. So the possible threats related to the emerging pollutant is that most of the wastewater that comes out that need to be treated can contain a lot of pharmaceutical elements. Okay, so this water, if not properly treated, they will eventually be released into our water bodies. So it is in the end that seems like this cartoon saying that you do not need to take your medicine, but you can just drink the local water because it's full of pharmaceutical waste. Okay, so we do not want our water to become like this. So if we want to consume antibiotic, we just drink our river water, for example. So we do not want this to happen to us. So that's why it's really important for us to treat properly this water before we discharge it. Okay, another thing related to this emerging pollutants is that most of the concern related to these pollutants are endocrine disruptors. That means there are substances that can mimic a hormone in our endocrine system and disrupt the function of the hormone. So it can disrupt our brain system, it can disrupt with our thyroid, our adrenal gland, pancreas, ovaries, and testes. So it can influence our reproduction system. It can influence our immune function. It can also influence our thyroid-related disorder, bone disorders, and to the children, it can influence the neurodevelopment system. It can also enhance the hormone related to cancer and also metabolic disorder. So here are some common synthetic and natural endocrine disruptor. Some of these compounds that are naturally exist in our system, for example, estrogen, natural androgen testosterone, beta-cetosterols, and so on. But most of the emerging pollutants, they are come from anthropogenic sources that from our personal care products, pharmaceutical, our toys such as bisphenol A, pesticides such as dioxin, phthalates, and so on. So the most known endocrine disrupting chemical features is listed as below, as above. So we have, for example, paraben that comes from food preservative, phthalates that comes from personal products, personal care products, bisphenols that comes from plastics, and also food packaging, perfluoroalkyl substances that comes from clothing, chlorinated biphenyls from solvent, pesticide, herbicide, and fungicide, and lastly, non-steroidal estrogens that comes from pharmaceutical and also synthetic hormones. So there are now an increase in the production of synthetic hormones that can cause a serious problem to our aquatic system. So here are the study that been conducted in Las Vegas. So they have found that there were high amount of human estrogen in the Las Vegas Bay that has resulted in endocrine disruption of female protein in male fish. Okay, so what they found that is they take sample from fish that are in the lake. Okay, so and they found that there were female protein in the male fish. Okay, so this is quite disturbing. They have linked that these are all because of the discharge or the improper treatment of wastewater that have led to the increase of human estrogens in the lake system. So this also related to the same case. They have studied, this is why they found that the effect with the increased concentration of the endocrine disruptors compounds in the lake, they have found a relationship with the effect in the testicles or the hormone, male fish hormone of the fish. Another study is related to the hermaphroditic frogs. This is also similarly where they found that there's an increase in the feminization of male frogs in the wild. Okay, so these were due to the exposure of the atrazine contamination. So they have found that with the increase of the atrazine, they have also an increase in the testicle or the feminization of these frogs. So in the end, what goes around comes around. So we think that we are not involved or we are not going to be influenced by the discharge of these pollutants. So if you can see this flow, the emerging pollutants, they come from different sources that enter into our wastewater treatment plants. Okay, and these wastewater treatment plants, after they are treated using the conventional treatment, they will be passed through to our drinking water or our recreational waters. So for the drinking water, this is what you get in your from your tap. Okay, so this tap water, they are treated. You think that is safe, they are treated, they are clean, but you actually there are still presence of these pollutants in your water, and the water are also being used for agriculture, and also they are discharged into rivers where there are fish and our farmers also use this water for the paddy fields and so on. Okay, so these pollutants in the end will be in our own plate. Okay, so these pollutants, some of them they bioaccumulate. They can accumulate in the fat of these animals, fish, and they are also bioavailable. They are persistent. Okay, so this will cause serious impact to humans. So there are a few cases where people get sick and they do not know why they get sick. Okay, it's mainly because of their food and drinks. And studies have been conducted on the bottled water that are being sold in the stores, and they have found that this bottled water contains disinfectant byproduct, fertilizer residue, and also pain medication. So in fact, Singapore now they have detected some of these pollutants in the water that we export to them. Okay, so they no longer wanted to buy bottled water from our country. So they prefer to treat their own water system because of their better technology than us. And these are actually some of the active pharmaceutical ingredients that have been detected in Malaysian drinking water. So this study was conducted, it was published, the work published 2020. So this water, the sample was taken in tap water around Putrajaya. So these are the some of the compounds that have been detected: diazinon, caffeine, propranolol, ciprofloxacin, and so on. Okay, so these are some of this has raised concern how this pollutant can end up in our drinking water system. So here I would like to discuss about some of the possible treatment of these emerging pollutants. Okay, so our sewage and water treatment plants are not equipped to remove these emerging pollutants. So some of these treatment method, they are also very difficult or expensive to be conducted. So me and my team, we are trying to find ways how we can treat this wastewater so that it is safer for release or to be released into our waterways. Okay, so some of the technique that has been suggested in removing emerging pollutants from wastewater are, for example, adsorption, membrane filtration, biological process which involve microorganism, and also advanced oxidation process. But these treatments also, they have a few advantages and disadvantages. So some of the advantages related to adsorption is that it is great efficacy. It has been reported to remove some of the pharmaceutical or hormones such as estradiol, and also they have low operative and maintenance costs. They can be applied in our existing treatment plant. There is no byproducts. It's easy to apply. It's low energy because it does not need a high temperature or extreme condition. And it is also consumption. We can consume the treated water. The disadvantages of this technique is that the solvent or the material that you use to absorb these emerging pollutants, they need to be regenerated or disposed. There is some problem with either if you want to regenerate this solvent, it can be more expensive as compared to when you produce a new ones. And also there were problems related to the disposal of the solvent that in the end can generate solid waste. There's also use of non-conventional adsorbents. So we need to find a low-cost sorbent, for example, from agricultural waste, to convert it into a much efficient adsorbent. So there's a need of some modification, and we also need to find adequate condition for the adsorbent to perform. For example, we need to find the right adsorbent dosage, we need to find the right pH, we need to find a suitable contact time, and so on. And there were also reports on its low performance towards pesticides such as carbamazepine and so on. And another alternative is using membrane filtration. So this technique has a wide spectrum of activity. Ultrafiltration methodology will be able to remove a high level of all endocrine disruptors, but this technique is expensive, high cost. It produces toxic waste byproducts. It can concentrate, and then it can concentrate primarily, and then it can discharge into surface water. And the challenges of treatment and discharge of the contaminants accumulated during the process. So some of these pollutants, they tend to be accumulated on the filter. So we need a way to treat these filters so that it can be reused. Another technique is biological process. So this technique have been used, or it has been reported to produce high biodegradation level up to 90%. It has no byproduct and also low cost, because there's a minimal cost involved in caring for the microorganism. But its efficacy is related to different enzymatic mechanisms. So different microorganism used will give different efficacy. And we also need time for the incubation, and then pre-treatment of samples as initial concentration of pollutant. So we need some pre-treatment if we have a very high concentration of the pollutant. Another alternative technique is advanced oxidation process. So this also has been reported on wide spectrum of efficacy. It has been reported to remove up to 80% of EDC compound or endocrine disrupting compounds. It has high degree of sensitivity, but this technique is high cost, because we need some oxidants to be able for the reaction to occur. But we can opt for sunlight as our source of energy, and also catalysts that can absorb this sunlight for the reaction to undergo. So this alternative is much more cheaper. And regeneration of active substances, again with absorption we have problem in generating the material, or the solvent or the catalyst after it is being used. Also there may need some post-treatment for the treated water, and because it involves some oxidation reaction, there are some possibility of byproducts being formed. And lastly, I just would like to conclude that we as a nation, we should strive for a cleaner and safer water. So this is we need collaboration from all sides. We need the collaboration from the government. We need collaboration from the NGOs, and also from university or researcher, to find ways how we can solve the problem related to emerging pollutants. And many more research and innovation activities are needed, especially on the proper disposal of the pollutant before it enters our water system, either before it enters our river, or either it enters from our sewage system. Okay, we have to try to avoid disposing this pollutant. So we need a proper way of disposing our medicine those that when you subscribe or when you buy the medicine from the drugstore, make sure that it is what you needed and that you know how to properly dispose it, not through our sewage system. And then more research are needed in the development of analytical method. This is important because in order for us to trace this emerging pollutant even in low concentration, we really need the advancement of technology in analytical method. And then we also need a method to identify from where does this emerging pollutants come from. Either it comes from pharmaceutical or does it come from pesticide and so on. And also similar to the proper disposal, we are trying to remove the source at remove the emerging pollutant at the source, and also the last resort should be at the wastewater treatment plant. So that should be the last resort, but in the first place we should remove it before it enters our water system. And then more studies are needed in order to learn the transformation of these products. They can be transformed into other metabolites that are sometimes more dangerous than their initial compound, and also their effects, either their compound or their metabolites. Studies should be conducted. More studies should be conducted on the effects, their risk, and also their toxicity. And in terms of the government, we also need to enforce the emerging pollutants that are needed to be monitored. Apart from those that are listed in the water quality index, some of these confirmed pollutants that have been detected in our water system should be monitored. Okay, some of the developed countries have started to monitor some of the emerging pollutants or their watch list. So we should also adopt this technique and monitor these emerging pollutants. With that, I thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Summiyah. Very interesting talk about the emerging pollutants. So I myself also work in the emerging pollutants, and I know that it's very, very challenging, especially to detect them in water. So as you know, we use a lot of chemicals today, right? Every day we use like a toothbrush, then we use toothpaste, and then after that we put some cosmetics, right? And then we use detergent and so on. So all these chemicals will go into our river eventually, because we have very, very limited ways to treat them. So in fact, in our country, where we have started to detect certain levels of emerging pollutants, and of course we are still behind. I would say we are still behind in terms of the treatment. Right. So I have the privilege to visit several wastewater treatment plants that have started to work on this emerging pollutant. Okay, they started to treat in Europe. Okay, in Europe, in Germany, for example, one of the wastewater treatment plant, they use activated carbon to treat the emerging pollutants. Okay, it's in a large scale. I think it's for like 1 million people. Okay, I can't remember what's the capacity, but they have already started to do that many years ago. But for us, we are still behind. In fact, in Europe, they also look into photocatalysts. I also know that they are using photocatalysts, pilot scale system, okay, to remove certain pharmaceuticals. Okay, so, thank you for your wonderful presentation. So we will have the question and answer later after the last presenter. Okay, so for the last panelist, right, Dr. Annette from CEMACS. She has completed her PhD at USM, and now she is the head of the aquaculture research team at CEMACS. So very high level, very high position. So for your information, CEMACS is very, very passionate in bringing environmental awareness to the public. through outreach and education program. So you can check out CEMACS. It's one of the emerging centers at USM. Okay, as I said, it's one of the favorite centers for our current VC. Okay, so Annette, the stage is yours now. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Dr. O. You put a lot of pressure on me suddenly. Yeah. Let me share my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me. And also, I think the two speakers before me, they have set the stage. They were talking about rivers. So all rivers will flow to the sea. So now it's my turn to talk a little bit about the plastic pollution in the coastal environment. I'd like to start by showing you this photo. Yes, it's a common sight. And yes, we've seen it all before. But I really hope that this scene is not normalized. And that it will create in us a sense of alarm. And more than that, to make us actually want to do something about it. I approach this sharing from the perspective of the user, right? So this is something very common that you would see at a beach. And I really dislike showing these photos. But then again, this is what is really happening in our marine environment. A lot of the animals that you hear about it, right? Dolphins eating plastic, whales found dead, and then there's a lot of plastic material which has been stuck inside their guts, right? So we hear about turtles having plastic straws stuck in their noses. All these photos really make us think again about our actions and about the things that we are actually doing. I also like to highlight that birds, like seabirds, those marine birds, are also affected by this coastal pollution, right? So why is it such a big deal, right? We know that plastics actually take a very long time to break down. So depending on a different type of material, they take, it could take really long. For example, plastic bottles. Here it says it takes about 450 years to actually break down, decompose. Fishing lines. So fishing lines are made out of nylon, so they are plastic materials as well. And they take about 600 years to break down. So imagine the waste that we actually produce, and somehow they have found their way into our water system, right? From the rivers, and it gets to the ocean. And they are all going to remain there. They can't go anywhere, right? So this is what we are all aware about. And this is something that we have to find a way to actually solve. So plastic pollution doesn't necessarily only mean those big plastic bottles and all those materials that you can actually see. So there is much, much more to what it is. And sometimes the things are there, but you don't really know it because you can't really see it, right? So the two other speakers have also highlighted about microplastics. Okay, so in technical terms, when a plastic material breaks down because of UV, because of the sunlight, or even the tide action, so they break up all these big pieces of plastic into smaller pieces. So we categorize microplastics as something that is less than 5 millimeters in size. So 5 millimeters is pretty small, and sometimes it just, you can't see it. And I want to bring to your attention this photo. I think this one really impacted me quite a bit. So you see here pieces of plastic. So there are about over 200 pieces of plastic. You can see there are plastic lids, so many different things that probably is part of toys, lighters, anything. I don't know what this was. But all of these pieces of plastic was actually found inside the belly of an albatross chick. Is a type of seabird, all right? And it's only less than 90 days old. And this amount of plastic was found inside its belly. And I'm not sure if you are aware, but for those of you who have watched this documentary, it's called A Plastic Ocean. Put it in the chat box if you have actually seen this documentary. I highly recommend it if you are interested to know much more about this issue. So in that documentary, you can actually see the scientist who's working on this. Her name is Jennifer Laver, if I'm not mistaken. You can actually see her dissecting the bird and removing those plastics from the belly. So I think that really impacted me a lot. You know, just seeing the photo is completely different than actually seeing her removing those plastics from the belly of the bird, right? So this is one of the pictures that shows you all the pieces of plastic. The birds actually, they die because all these plastics inside the belly, obviously it cannot be digested. And then it makes them have this sense of being full and they don't eat, and eventually slowly they will die off, right? So let me give you a little bit more details about what types of microplastics are actually out there. So they come in different shapes. We get fragments. So these are small pieces from plastics which have been broken. And then the ones that are looking a bit like threads, they are fiber types. And then we have pieces of foam. And then we also have nurdles. So these are actually plastic pellets. So these are raw materials, all right, before the plastic is molded into a different product. And then another thing I would like to highlight is microbeads. So microbeads, for those of us who use cleanser or all those cosmetic products, sometimes they do state that it comes with microbead. It helps you to scrub, right, your skin. So these are abrasives and they are actually made of plastic. So all this, once you use, it gets into our waterways and it's released and it's just floating around in our sea. So something to also maybe give you a bit of awareness about is, now what I notice is that the products, they don't really put the word microbeads there. So you don't really know they are in it. So what you can do is actually look at the ingredients list and read it. Of course, the chemical names and things like that, some of it's a bit weird for us. So look for things like polyethylene. So if you see that, that indicates there is a plastic material inside the product, right? Okay, this is also to show you where our microplastics come from. So quite a lot of it actually comes up from our clothing. So we have polyester, nylon, and each time we wash our clothes in the washing machine, these fibers get released. So same thing again, we are actually releasing a lot of microplastics into our waterways. I found this picture and I think I wanted to highlight something, especially this particular type of microplastic. So these nanofibers, they actually come from cigarette butts. So cigarette butts contain pieces of plastic in the filter, the part of the cigarette. So cigarette butts, you see them everywhere. For some reason, after smoking, people just throw them anywhere, right? So it's a form of littering. For some reason, even though it's so tiny, maybe they think it's okay, just throw, get rid of it. But if you look at the data, okay, so what I'm sharing here is from the International Coastal Cleanup Day. So maybe a bit of background about International Coastal Cleanup Days. So every year on the third Saturday of September, the Ocean Conservancy, they organize, well, not to say organize, but we observe this cleanup day. So anyone from the world, you can do your collection, all right? Go to the beach, do your beach cleanup, and then submit your data to this organization. And they will actually collect and come up with the top 10 items collected. So they come up with a report every year. So if you look at the list of things that is normally collected at the beach, so these are all the trash that is lying around. So you get food wrappers, you get cigarette butts, all the common things that we use all the time, right? Drinks, bottles, straws, and the number is a lot, it's alarming, right? So cigarettes are actually one of the most common things that we find at the beach, or actually even anywhere. If you walk along the town, just walk and look down the streets, you will see cigarettes everywhere. Just to highlight to you what activity that we did last year at CEMACS, because CEMACS, we also organize our beach cleanup activity every year. And in 2018, we had a really big beach cleanup activity at Queens Bay Beach, for those of you who know. And then in 2019, unfortunately, we couldn't have it because of the haze situation. So last year, because of the COVID situation, we are faced with more challenges, but somehow we feel that this is something that we wanted to do and we have to organize it. So we came up with a creative way of how we can actually do this beach cleanup. So normally we will have a really big event and a lot of people will come, and then we'll collect all the rubbish together and then we will tally the numbers. So for last year, because of the MCO and things like that, so we actually organized a month-long beach cleanup activity. And it was taken part by different members of the public all over Malaysia. So people were actually encouraged to do their own cleanup activities and submit their data to us. So what you will see that we collected the most is actually cigarette butts, and the list goes on, and there's all sorts of plastic materials that we have collected. And also to highlight, now during this pandemic, we are using a lot of plastic material, right? Our face mask, it contains some plastic materials, the plastic PPEs. So we really consume a lot of plastic. In a way, not to demonize plastic, it has its good points as well. But I suppose the way that we approach how we use it is something that we all have to think about. Just to give you a little bit of history about plastic, okay? So it's actually invented not so long ago. And once again, the use of plastic is actually to facilitate a lot of things, right? They wanted to come up with things for using parachute material. It has to be light, airplanes. So during that time, they were actually searching for material which is durable, lightweight, and it's flexible enough in certain aspects. So plastic was invented. And also to address another problem, at that time, people were using ivories from elephants, right? So they were actually poaching elephants, killing them, getting their tusks, and using the ivory for piano keys, the snooker balls, even things like combs, they were using ivory. So this posed as a problem. So plastic actually is an alternative at that period of time to avoid this killing of wildlife, right? So at that point in time, it was something that helped them. And then comes to 1955, right? So for some reason at this time, those single-use plastic material was started to being invented, like spoons, plates. They call it throw away living. So you use one time and then you throw it away. This is to help the housewives. Okay, they said that you don't have to do so much of cleaning, so much of washing. So once you use it, you just throw away, you just wash it, right? So it has carried on until now. So let's have a look. I pulled out some titles which I think is quite interesting for me to share today. So microplastics actually have turned up everywhere. So even the deepest part of the ocean, so that is the Mariana Trench, that is about 11 kilometers in depth. Okay, so that is the deepest known part of the ocean. And sadly to say that we can also find plastics in the deepest part of the sea. Right, and then there's also microplastics which are released from tea bags. And then another thing that probably we didn't really know or not really aware about is that tire particles, the car tires, they do release microplastic particles as well. And another thing is that these particles can actually get carried by the wind, and this is very difficult for us to control. So microplastics is in the air, right? So I also want to share a little video. So this is an example of a plankton, and what you see there, those bright green spots, these are plastics, all right? So this is an experiment that is conducted by some researchers. These plankton are in the water, so they are filter feeders, meaning that they will just consume the water. So whatever is in the water is actually going into their digestive system. So imagine if there is plastics just floating everywhere around them, they cannot choose, right? So whatever is around them, it will just get into their bodies. On the right side, what you see is a small experiment that we conducted at CEMACS. On the left is a control. So this is an artemia, right? We used it as a model organism just to show the impact of microplastics in the water. So for the control, we didn't put in any microplastics, and for the treated, we put in some microplastics, and within 1 to 2 hours, we check them under the microscope, and what you see, the black color line in the middle, that is the gut of the artemia, is filled with microplastics, right? So another thing that was also highlighted by the previous panelists is that microplastics can actually carry toxic chemicals. So they seem to be something like magnets or sponges that actually can absorb all those pollutants in the water as well. So they not only carry the plastics chemicals that's with them, but also able to attract those pollutants in the water. Okay, so this is also similar thing to what Dr. Summiyah shared. So kind of like what goes around comes around, right? So our waste gets released into the water. So our planktons filter feed, and then they do carry the plastics with them. And then they are part of the food chain, right? So it goes to the fish, and this is a very simplistic cycle just to show you how that the microplastics eventually get back into our food chain. Okay, and then to highlight some of the research that's done, they actually found microplastics in humans too. So out of 8 people that they studied, all of them actually contain some form of microplastics. And sad to know also that salts contain microplastics. And a very, very new research that was published this year, they actually found microplastics in 4 out of 6 placenta of human, right? So we also get plastics from the air around us. I guess their implication to human health is being researched and being studied, but for sure, you can tell that there's a lot of problems that we will be facing. Okay, in terms of research, I don't do research on microplastics, just to let everyone know, but to give an overview of how the microplastics are actually sampled and studied, right? Okay, so we get back to the ocean again. So trash accumulates in these 5 major parts in the ocean. So these are called the ocean gyres. So there's certain areas in the ocean where plastic accumulation becomes quite concentrated because of the way the water is moving. So there are circular currents caused by the wind pattern, also the currents, and also the temperature. So plastics and microplastics tend to accumulate in this area. So I also decided that I wanted to share a little bit about the research that's being done elsewhere. All right, so there's so much of plastic already out in the environment, and people are actually scrambling to do something about it. So I just wanted to highlight 2, which I think is quite interesting to let everyone know. So the first one I wanted to share is this group that they call themselves Expedition. So they are all women, all right? So they are all female voyagers exploring the sea, and they are scientists from different backgrounds, and they travel to at least, I think, 4 of these gyres. They had an expedition from 2019 and up till now. So they go around and they collect water samples, they do analysis on their vessel itself. The reason they mentioned that they have an all-female group is that they also wanted to show that women can do this and they must be more involved in STEM. And they also wanted to actually highlight that sailing, because sailing is kind of like a man-dominated area, right? So they also wanted to highlight that women can be a part of this sport or this area. And then the second one that I wanted to highlight is the Ocean Cleanup Foundation. You probably have heard of this because this guy, he's been around for quite a long time now, and he is making waves because he's really, really young. And it's amazing. I think it's inspiring for someone who is so young. He started thinking about how to solve these problems when he was only like, I think 14 or 16 years old, right? So I was told there's a lot of students who are joining this session. So I guess our young minds, you should think about innovations and don't think that because you are young, you can't achieve it. So this is one of an example, I would say, of someone trying to do something. So if you see the bottom, the title, Why We Need to Clean the Ocean's Garbage Patches. In 2015, he came up with this, he founded his company in 2013. And by the year 2019, he actually already came up with a method how to clean the plastic, especially in those Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So this is part of the designs that he tested out, and this one was successful enough. And the cool thing about his design is that it uses the wind and the waves, all the current energy to actually drag his contraption, and it will, this area here, you see, this one is where the plastics get accumulated, right? So according to his modeling and calculations, with his project, he thinks that about 90% of the ocean plastic could be removed from the sea, right, by the year 2040. And then people start to ask, what do you do with all the plastics that you collected, right? There's so much of plastics that they collected from the sea. So what he did, his current project, right, they're using these plastics to make sunglasses, right? So they have made the sunglasses and they are actually selling the sunglasses. So if you want to support them, you can buy a pair of the sunglasses and the money will go back into his research and also the effort to clean up these garbages in the sea. I think it's like 200 euros or something like that. Right. So another part of their foundation also focuses on the river, right? So he goes by phases. The first phase, it was the ocean, and then he goes to the river. So in terms of this invention, right, innovation, it's called the interceptor. I think probably you have heard about it because recently it made a lot of news because there is one of the interceptors which is in the Klang River. And this is also another, I would say, very interesting and a very cool innovation. So again, this uses 100% solar power. So what it does is you can see there is a conveyor belt. It moves. If you have time later on, you can check out their website. You can actually see how this thing works. So the conveyor belt actually moves all the plastic or the trash or whatever it is that they've collected from the river, and it gets dumped into the collecting bins. Okay, so inside of this, there is a collecting bin. And then when it's full, there is a sensor there. And the person who is actually taking care of the interceptor gets a message, and then they come and then they take the bins to get emptied out. And another thing that you probably heard about is the band Coldplay, right? They are actually sponsoring and they are working together with his company. And he works a lot by crowdfunding and getting sponsorships. Okay. So in terms of the Sustainable Development Global Goals, plastic pollution is actually one of the targets that is set in SDG 14. Target 14.1, it says that by 2025, they want to prevent and significantly reduce marine pollutions of all kinds, in particular from land-based activity, including marine debris and nutrient pollution. Right, so they have identified this as one of the major problems, and it's very important for us to actually conserve and use the ocean sustainably. Okay, looking at the Malaysian situation, to be very honest, I'm not too sure and not very deep into this. I'm not sure if this policy is still in use or not. So there is a roadmap for Malaysia. So there are plans in place from 2018 to 2030, how we are going to go towards zero single-use plastics, which I think is fantastic. So our country has a plan and I hope it is still in place. And just to highlight a little bit also about Penang, yeah, I'm a Penangite. So I'm quite happy to say that I feel our state is moving in a good direction when it comes to coming up with waste management and also to tackle all these sustainability, pollution, all these green issues, right? So just to highlight Penang Green Council, they do have a lot of activities and also programs, and they have education and awareness programs that they do, trying their best to actually get the public more aware and more involved on how we can actually tackle this problem. And also to those of you who are not from USM, USM actually has been touted as the university that cares a lot about sustainability. Our vision itself says it, right? Transforming higher education for a sustainable tomorrow. Just to give you a bit of some history, a bit of a background. There was this program come up by students, and they started campaigning against the use of polystyrenes. So all the cafeteria in USM actually has banned the use of polystyrene. So this is actually the beginning of saying no to polystyrene packaging. It started at USM, and slowly, I guess, it has been adopted by the state, and there is no usage of polystyrene packaging in the island, I mean in Penang. To give you a little bit of background about CEMACS, we are actually a research center which is located in Teluk Bahang, Penang, that is within the Penang National Park. So those of you from USM, I don't know how many of you have actually visited our center, but yes, you are welcome to come, welcome to work with us as well. In terms of marine plastic pollution, CEMACS, we take our education and awareness towards the community very, very seriously. And we are part of this global partnership on marine litter, and also POGO, the Partnership for Observation of the Global Oceans. So both of these are our international networks, and we work together with other major ocean research institutions in the world. So besides having international networks, and we actually do a lot of outreach to the community around us. So just now, like I mentioned, we do have beach cleanup activities. That's the nice thing about CEMACS. Everyone works together, even though we are a very, very small community. Everyone, including the director, up to our cleaners, everyone is always working together. So everyone, we will call it like turun padang, right? So beach cleanup, everyone goes as well. And we work with schools, schools around us. So either we have programs within CEMACS itself. So schools can come and have their activities with us. We do run some environmental awareness programs. So in some of the pictures here that you would see, this is our lab, and students are actually analyzing samples taken from the sea, taken from the beach outside, and they're actually counting or trying to filter out those microplastics that is within those samples. And then we do also have exhibitions about our work, and also environmental awareness, right? Okay, so after talking so much about what is out there, all this pollution and all these issues that we have, I think somehow we need to do something about it. And even though there are big scale projects going on trying to clean the oceans, that's just a small group. I mean, the problem is way, way bigger than what it is. So I think everyone has to play our part. Sometimes it may feel like it's very small what we do, but it probably will contribute to the difference that the pollution issue is. So maybe to highlight this little picture, you see a seahorse riding on the cotton bud. So cotton buds, you have the little stick that's made of plastic. So that is what the situation is right now. Sometimes when I think about it, I also wonder, does it really make a difference? The small little things that we do. But somehow I feel, yes, what we can do, even though it's really tiny move, somehow it will contribute towards reducing this problem that we are facing, right? So just a little bit of ideas, maybe how we can actually change our lifestyle. Maybe not completely. That's why I didn't really say we should change our lifestyle, but maybe adjust it in little ways. And every little bit slowly will make somewhat of an impact. So we should start thinking about the things that we use, probably go more with reusable things, like the bags, cups, and then wherever possible, refuse disposable plastics if it's possible. And then we can also do something about cleaning up, taking action, right? The last thing I said down here is don't give up. I guess that is also telling myself don't give up. Sometimes I feel that maybe I'm not doing enough, but just don't give up, keep on trying. And another thing that I think is quite interesting to highlight as well is that there are a lot of innovations and alternative things that we can do and we can use, right? So toothbrushes that we use plastics. So there are actually new innovations using bamboo toothbrushes. And then there was a point in time that we also think that those bristles, they are made from plastics, but newer innovation comes up with the bristles that are actually made from plant-based polymers. So they are easy to actually decompose, right? And then there are materials being made from food waste, that is the fruit peels. And then they are using them, making them into materials. And also, if there are bulk stores, which you can actually visit and use, I think there are some already in KL and also in Penang, these zero waste stores. So they have this, they sell things in bulks. You can actually bring your own container and go there and you can refill your material that you wanted to buy. And then this one, this small little contraption here is an innovation to actually collect those particles from the tires. So, but I don't think this one is out. It's just an innovation, which is probably in the pipeline someday, I guess, right? And also, I think movements from supermarkets, grocery stores. So I saw this news recently, no more single-use plastics at Lotus, Malaysia, starting in July. And then this picture here was shared by one of my friends, which I think is also quite nice. If you can see, the vegetables are no longer packed individually in plastic. So I think there's a lot more. See, above here is plastics and here is paper. So some companies are actually moving towards using alternative materials to plastic, right? And then a bit about recycling. So plastics can be categorized in 7 different groups. So the categories actually indicate what type of plastic those what type of plastics the material is made of, right? And plastics that can be recycled varies from country to country. So from what I know now, in Malaysia, we can actually recycle plastics that are category 1, 2, and also 5. But my reading also shows that there are some people who are collecting styrofoams, that is type number 6 for recycling. So it all depends on the recycling facilities, what kind of plastic they can accept. So if you are more conscious and you want to start doing some recycling, so be aware of those types of plastic. So like in a water bottle, you can just flip it over and you will find this symbol that shows you what type of plastic it is and what can you do with it. Another thing that I guess I should highlight is that sometimes we see the recycling bin, you just chuck it in. But in order for it to be recycled, these plastics should be clean. So if you're using food packaging, you have to clean it, right? So clean it, dry it, and then it can be sent for recycling. Another thing I think I should share is these are all bread tags, those little plastics that you get from your bread, right? Or your gardenia and whatnot. All of them come with these small little plastics. So these are small plastics which we just throw away, don't really know what we can do with them, right? So at CEMACS, we came up with this idea of actually collecting these bread tags. So we had a small little campaign early this year. We did a collection on some of the plastics, including these bread tags. And we found out that there are some people, some companies that actually accept things like this, because what they do is they upcycle them, meaning they melt them down and they create new products, right? So instead of just releasing all these plastics to the waste, and somehow they will end up in our oceans, we somehow stop it from going out, right? So we reuse these materials. And one of the companies that CEMACS has worked with is called Reimagine Plastic. So those of you in Kuala Lumpur, you can actually send your material to them. You can check out their Facebook page. They accept, they accept certain types of materials. So they use it to create different products. They work with the community. So the community actually has a way to earn some side income by actually making all these things. So this one is plastic bags, which they have pieced together, and they have created a type of material, and they make bags, right? So some of the things you can actually use it as craft material. So remember, if you want to send out things for recycling, upcycling, you have to make it clean and dry them. All right, another thing to highlight is that we also work with local schools. So the community around us, we do collaborations with them. One of our future projects that we are going to do is to work with the Prince of Wales Islands International School. This thing that you see here is a bookmark which is created from waste which the students actually collected from the sea, and also some of the waste that they have at home, all their plastic waste. They collect it, they bring it to school, and they have a workshop, and they actually create all these materials. They do sell them, and they use it for their education and their research purposes. So to summarize, I guess the impacts of the debris you can find in the coastal environment, of course, we know it's very, very dangerous, especially towards the animals that live in that environment, right? So they accidentally eat it, or they got trapped. It's difficult for them to breathe, and then eventually it damages their habitat. The outcome is bleak. It's not really good, just like we already know. So yeah, again, for those of our younger generation, so there's more things that you can do, I think, in my opinion anyway, but do something, right? So I suppose we should start today. Just a few things, a few ideas that came to my mind. Let's say you plan to do some beach cleanup, right? You collect all of your trash, but go one step ahead. You can be a citizen scientist. Remember just now I talked about the Ocean Conservancy. They do have an app, okay? It's called Ocean Swell. So it's nice. Once you download the app, you collect a certain piece of rubbish, you just tap it on your phone. So after you're done, they will tabulate and tell you what are the different things that you collected. And you can actually send in this data. And then recycling doesn't have to be just recycling per se. There are some companies which actually give you rewards, right? If you send in your material, they give you some points and you can exchange them for some vouchers. Yeah, moving on with the times, right? So you can actually start your own podcast. And those of you who are involved in Clubhouse, you can talk about it. I mean, talking and actually sharing out information that you know will actually spread the knowledge further, right? And I guess keeping connected and staying on with the times, you can use so many different platforms to actually connect with people out there. So if you go to Facebook, there are a lot of groups, right? And there are some zero waste communities. And sometimes it feels a bit overwhelming, right? You don't know where to start. Where do you go? How do you send your things? Where to send your things? So there are a lot of information online which you can find. So I think these are some of the things that you can actually try out. Try to get more involved in activities like this, right? So YouTube, Netflix, there's so much information that you can actually learn from. All right, so I think I've come to the end of my sharing session. This is one of my favorite covers from National Geographic. It shows the plastic bag and our problems is just like the tip of an iceberg. It's way bigger than what we actually can see, right? So again, no action is too small, and just do something, just even one little thing. And probably the best time to start is actually now, right? So I mentioned the documentary, A Plastic Ocean, just now. So if you have time, you can search for it in Netflix. I think it will be very impactful, and it's quite an interesting thing that everyone should watch. From knowing comes caring, and from caring comes change. Right, so thank you everyone. If you wish to connect with CEMACS, you can always check out our official Facebook page and also our Instagram page. And if you want to connect with me, you can always send me an email. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Annette. A very interesting sharing of this plastics issue. In fact, I agree with you that we are having this plastic issue. Plastic itself, right, it's like it has a very long life, right, lifespan. It could take up to 100 to few thousand years to degrade the plastics, right? So now we come to the question and answer session. Okay, so for this question and answer session, the participants can ask any questions that they want in the chat, or maybe if they want to like ask in person, they can also send in a request for us. So anyone can answer the question, it's okay. As in, if any of the panelists, if you feel like you want to add on to the answers, it's okay for you to answer that. Okay. So first question we have for Mr. Azroie. Okay, Mr. Azroie, I have a question for you. What do you think about the prospect of directly flowing the treated sewage to the reservoir instead of discharge directly into the drain, then to the river and the downstream? This can be more sustainable in terms of cost and energy share, energy saving. Would you like to answer that? I think you are muted.
Okay. Is this question inside the message?
Yes, this is the message.
Okay. Okay. I think is it from Dr. Hong, is it?
Yeah, it's from Dr. Hong.
I don't. Yeah. I think Mr. Azroie has already answered the question. I think I got it clear. It's a very good idea.
I think
Mr. Your question, Dr. Hong. I hope
Mr. Azroie can answer this
already answered
live because
I can explain it one more time. So STP is built to cater the discharge from the community, as simple as that. But in the future, this discharge, this effluent of sewage treatment plant, actually you don't have to discharge directly to drain or to the river. You can reuse back. That's why I did mention from waste to wealth. You can, because I found this one paper been done by Dr. Fu from REDAC USM. He can turn this effluent to become a liquid fertilizer with little modification to discard all the harmful hazardous material. Then it shows that from his pilot project, I think he can grow vegetable, fruits using this liquid fertilizer. Then with further testing, they found that this fruit is safe to eat. So this small project, my project, can be emphasized. It can be introduced to other people. Meaning this what we want from our researcher, from local researcher, from UC, from USM, from other universities, to make this type of research to make it benefit for the people. We really appreciate that.
Okay, but I just add on. I think for this kind of reuse, right? One of the issue would be in terms of the sustainability. So if the water itself has low COD, right, and low VOD, then if we want to transform this into energy or biogas, then that will be very difficult because it's not very sustainable. So that's why we need some research to improve the sustainability of the system.
Yeah.
So moving on, would be another question by Prof. Chan regarding the issues of pig farms in Seberang Perai, right? So it is one of the main reason why Penang is a water stress state.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate a bit on other than the closed system recommended by you?
Yeah.
In your talk, maybe you can suggest another way to address this problem. Right. So one of the reasons why I want you to let us know the reason is the solution is because we have Facebook Live, right? So
Yes,
Facebook Live, they cannot see the Zoom chat.
All comment. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. How to address the issue? Okay. In the first statement by a certain political party, they say they want to shut down all the pig farm in Penang, and all over Malaysia. But when you shut down this people's livelihood, they will eventually make it new places, pig farm, new places illegally. So eventually it will be not going to solve the problem of animals discharge. Actually, you create a new problem, much worse, because there's no monitoring, it's being constructed illegally. So you have to cater these people livelihood because they are best doing in pig farming. You have to cater their needs. They're also contributing to the national economy. So what you do is you have to introduce this system like such as closed system, or by doing a better legal enforcement, meaning that yes, they eventually have to put in indirectly this discharge, animal discharge, eventually will end up in the river. So in other way, using like a psychological way something like that, you are permitted to discharge the pollutant, but you have to pay. So they have to pay. If you don't have to pay, we have to shut down, or we have to impose a fine to this animal herder. But in the meantime, when they're trying to pay the fine or pay the loading pollution fee inside the river, they've been thinking, instead of I'm paying you this fee, I might as well upgrading my system. I might as well choosing the closed system. I might as well use this waste to make a profit. Use this animal waste, the feces, to make composting, so to make fertilizer compost, to make the sludge, to make a biogas energy. So in such a way, we are trying to give a new perspective to this type of community, to this farmers. They can make profit from their waste. Actually, they don't have to pollute, but actually they can reuse the pollutant. They use their discharge to make better use with proper training, with proper exposure. They can do it. They can manage. For example, at Taiwan, at Thailand, they can do it. This farmer can do it. They can well manage their waste.
Okay, very interesting.
Oh, may I just continue on that?
Oh yes, sure.
Thank you, Encik Muhammad Azroie. This question actually is very pertinent for Penang, because I once everybody to know that the Sungai Perai has been identified as the second major source of water supply for Penang.
Yeah.
Years ago, not just now.
Oh,
But
yeah,
it
yeah.
has not been, implemented, even though we have built a treatment plant on this river,
Yeah.
mainly because they are pig farms. And
correct.
there were some objections in the EXCO, and therefore it cannot be used because of the pig farm and the sludge coming to the river.
Yeah.
So I think we have to solve this problem. Years ago, during the BN time, we tried to have a centralized pig farm location whereby all the pig farms in Penang, not just this area, but the whole of Penang is to be centralized in the Pulau Burung area. And they actually, the state government has allocated the land. They were trying, they already, set up the budgeting and things like that. But I don't know eventually what happened to it. I know maybe change of government, change this, change that. Then suddenly everything disappear, and these people carry on as usual. And also there's no control whether anybody is going to, implement your closed system or not.
What about the response from the pig farmers? They have how about their response? These pig farmers, they receive it with positive way. They want to.
No, they just carry on as usual. I think some of the bigger farms, the bigger ones with the resources, they try to absorb some of the new system because these are the ones who can afford. But the big ones I think they represent only 10%, 10 to 20% of all the farms. So the 80 to 90% of the farms, the smaller ones, cannot afford. They cannot afford this system, and all those suggestions that you give are like turning the pig waste into manure, into sludge, into I think in China they even make it into bricks, So it can be done. I mean, it's not rocket science, but they don't have the technology, they don't have the money. I think the way forward is for the government to identify companies who can do this, and the companies go and collect the sludge. The pig farmers themselves, definitely they cannot do this sort of thing.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah, agree with you that it's very difficult to make the whole process sustainable, right? So, because it costs a lot of money, and the small farmers, right, and the big farm, right, cannot afford. Okay, so I know that NAHRIM is installing sensors, right? They are planning to install sensors at the river area, right? So that you can monitor the water quality. So whenever the pig farm discharge something out, right, then you can instantly know that this river water is polluted. That's one of the projects I believe been given to USM.
Yes,
right?
correct.
So I think we proceed with the next question. This question is by one participant. Just to save time, right? Do you think we should quickly revise our water quality standard to include emerging pollutants, for example, like microplastics, endocrine disruptor, and why it is not done yet, and what are the challenges?
Okay, I think I answered this. Our law on Water Act is since 1920. It's over 100 years old. So it's about time to change it, to revise it back. So we have to revise it and put this new emerging pollutants such as EDC, microplastic, or even odor inside this new law. Inside, not new law, inside this revised law, because it's about time. But the challenge now is to have a good, stable government. When you have new government, new policy, new priorities, then everything's changed. So what we want is, if we have a good, stable government, then our law can be amended and be catered to these new pollutants. That's the way that it can be solved, in my opinion.
Yeah, very interesting, but very, very difficult solution.
Yeah, very difficult.
Very, very difficult. Don't think we can do that in these few years.
Yeah, correct.
Can I just add a few more comments?
Yes, sure.
The problem also for us to have these pollutants to be indexed in our water quality index is because of their concentration that are very, very low. We need a very high technology analysis, chemical analysis to identify this in our water bodies, which are very limited. We have very limited facility to identify this pollutants, and the analysis part also can be very expensive. So further details in order to determine whether there is any toxicity or risk related to these pollutants are also very limited. So that's why I think we should enhance more research on the identification and also toxicology testing on these pollutants.
Correct.
That's all.
So which means that NAHRIM needs to fund us, right?
The government.
Yeah. So the next one, the next question is for Dr. Summiyah. Have we detected any emerging pollutants at a concentration that we should be concerned? And should we be worried about this thing?
Yes, we should. Yes, we should, because I think only recently that many researchers from Malaysia have started to analyze the water samples from our water bodies, and they have detected a very strong, high concentration of caffeine and also estrogens. Okay, so this is a very concern, and to determine what is the minimum concentration of this pollutant in our water body is very difficult, because we need to do toxicological assessment on this pollutant first in order to decide. But they have been high concentration of this pollutant, including microplastic, especially in urban areas. So yes, so it's quite difficult in order to determine what is the minimum concentration. Our research in Malaysia, I don't think that we have reached that level yet in order to decide this is the concentration of concern.
But up to today, we are drinking water that contains emerging pollutants, right? So is there any issue? Because we don't see any reports that says this person suffers from the issue because he's drinking water. So
Yeah, they have no relationship to say that this person are sick or they have cancer because of the food or drinks they are taking. Okay, so that is the problem. So we hopefully, with the advancement of technology, we will be able to link between the, now we have so many cancer patients, so we should be able to link why are they having high cancer with the food or the drinks they are taking.
This study takes a very long time, I think.
Yeah.
It is 20-30 years.
We are not up to that developed countries where they have already have the technology or the expert.
What is the reason why we are so behind?
I think the first reason is the cost or the funding to conduct this.
And one question: when EP will be listed as one of the parameters to be monitored or to be complied in the EQA regulations? So when do you think we will be able to reach up to this level?
I think there have been some urges from the researchers or those that are working with EPs. They have tried to outline this to the government, but I think it will take some time. Maybe within 5 years.
30 years.
5 years, if we can get it within 5 years, like miracle. But yeah, 5 to 10 years.
Maybe Mr. Azroie can share with us what are the things that NAHRIM is doing to tackle this emerging pollutant issue. I remember last year or 2 years ago, I went to NAHRIM, and then Mr. Azroie said, share with us some things on this antibiotics resistance and so on. So maybe you can share with us. Mr. Azroie, you are muted.
Okay. Can you repeat the question a bit? Sorry.
Sure. Maybe you can share with us. Last time I remember when I was at NAHRIM, you presented something on antibiotic resistance genes and so on, right?
Yes.
So is that an issue in Malaysia now?
Oh yes, of course. Like Dr. Summiyah mentioned, people being dumping antibiotic into the river. What happened is this antibiotic is still active. Then this bacteria inside the river system, like E. coli, the normal that cause diarrhea, will evolve to mutate can resist this antibiotic. So antibiotic, to my knowledge, we have on the generation of antibiotic produced is on the 4th generation already, meaning to become 5th generation, there's no more type of antibiotic that can be produced. So we are on the brink of how you say crisis lah, not yet crisis, but this bacteria has already been so smart they can trick us, meaning that they are resistant to the antibiotics. Happened in Malaysia when we do sample a river, one of the river in Malaysia in Klang area, we go to upstream. We find this bacteria. So to my thinking, does the people at upstream been throwing this antibiotic inside the river? So this antibiotic resistant bacteria, what they does, when you eat antibiotic, when you got fever or diarrhea, when you eat any antibiotic that being given to you by the doctors, you can't be cured. Actually, you're on that bad. So this is very alarming. So Ministry of Health has been funding this research to find out how does this issue, how big does this issue inside our system. And also they have been, if you have been noticed, when you go to the government practitioner, to the doctors, to the government clinics, they're not being giving you simply antibiotic anymore. They just give you paracetamol and some other medicine, but no more antibiotic unless you are very seriously ill. Then they give you antibiotic. That's how they control the antibiotic. And also they mentioned you have to finish your antibiotic. If you don't want to finish it, you have to discard the proper way. So the people have to be better educated.
Education is the key lah.
Yeah, education is key. Correct.
Reduce this kind of pollution.
Correct.
So thank you. Before I forget, Dr. Hong, can you share the survey link? Right. Before I forget, for the participant, we have a survey for you to fill up. Yeah. So the survey will be on many things, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's about improving, and then for like USM staff, students who join via Zoom, I mean, we will be able to provide e-certificates to you. One moment,
Yes.
let me share right now. Here. Okay. One. Okay. Well, I mean, at the time being, you can continue on.
Okay, sure. So we will ask Dr. Annette to answer some questions right now. Yeah, for her presentation, there are several questions. Okay, now we have from Dr. Lee. Now the product put it as natural exfoliant in the shower scrub, right? I'm just wondering, how can we be very certain that it is not the artificial microbeads as the ingredient?
Yeah, that's a very good point that Dr. Lee has highlighted. Okay, so some of the products, it's true what she says. There is, mostly they are using things like crushed seeds, right? From apricot, kiwi, strawberries. So they are using all these natural exfoliants inside of the products instead of microbeads. Some brands, they are really conforming to this and they are really truly following these standards. So they are actually excluding plastic microbeads and they are using these natural products. But the other day I was looking at some things in Watson's and I did come across some brands. They said natural products. They do have natural products in it and they also have additives of microbeads together. So it's a combination of materials inside. So to be extremely sure and to make your right choice, the best is to flip the bottles and actually read the ingredients. Yeah, chemical names are a little bit confusing sometimes, especially for me. I mean, you're all from chemistry, maybe no problem at all. So the good thing about now is very easy for us to actually get information. So just Google up the ingredient names and then you will know whether these are plastic or not. So most of the times that's what I do. I do check out the ingredients and I try to make a search for it and see if it's a form of plastic or not.
Okay,
Yeah,
very interesting.
thank you.
So another one question would be in terms of the microplastic, right? So we understand that in our conventional water treatment, right, we are unable to remove the microplastics. So do you have any data on microplastics in drinking water supply or maybe from piped water, and any recommendation on how CEMACS can work with Water Watch Penang to ensure that we have less of this kind of problems?
Okay, in terms of data, I don't have them from me because I don't really work on this, but a search shows that there are people who have actually found microplastics in drinking water. So very, very alarming and scary. And
so what will be the impact to human?
Impact on human, okay,
Yeah.
of course it gets into our digestive system, that's one of it. And then they do have chemicals that would leach out. So chemicals probably will cause danger to our health in one way or another. And they could be a combination of things that we can't actually pinpoint directly to the causes straight directly from the microplastics. So it's a bit difficult to actually pinpoint exactly what is the cause of certain things, right? And yes, I think some of you already highlighted earlier that research is one of the ways that we can know, but it's going to take a long period of time to actually be very conclusive. By then, probably something new would have come up, some other new problems that we will have to address.
Then we have to start again.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I know that microplastic is one of the main issue in UK several years back, and I've seen their newspaper, right, saying that microplastics found in their drinking water. So it's quite a big issue that time.
Yep.
Okay, so to wrap up, I think we are almost out of time. We have only a few minutes left. So to wrap up,
Dr. O, we
yes.
have one more questions from Facebook Live.
Yes, I saw that. This is the last question that I want to ask them.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks.
Yes. Okay. So we want to address this last Facebook question. Any suggestion how should the public react or help Malaysia on water pollution? So maybe we can ask each of the panel here to give us their thoughts, and then we will wrap this session up. Is it okay? So maybe we can start with Mr. Azroie.
How is it?
How should the public react? Okay, how should the public react and help Malaysia to solve the water pollution issue? What can we do? What can we contribute?
I mean, Malaysian mentality here. If you want to do something good, you have to reward them. Simple as that. Instead of money or something that can be rewarded. But if you don't have the budget, you can reward with something else. But meaning the people of Malaysia, we have to adjust to the scenario here. Meaning Malaysian people like to be rewarded. When they be rewarded, they feel nice, they feel better. Then in the same time, then you talk about the conserving the nature, the beauty of the nature. Then you can give the future prospect for them. I mean, future dreams to them. I mean, if you do this, it will be better for the generation. But in the same time, you keep on rewarding. The Malaysian people like to take reward for. Then Malaysian people also like to give reward, like to sedekah, like to give presents. That's our culture. So in sense of Malaysian people, this is the way to, in my opinion.
So the education and the mentality have to change.
Yeah,
right?
Correct, sir. Correct.
So, but we cannot reward them with the satisfactory of living in a clean environment. No one wants to take that. Fortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately, betul, correct.
Okay, so Dr. Summiyah, you have any thoughts?
I agree with Mr. Azroie regarding the rewards. Yeah. For my opinion, we have to stop the pollution at the source. Okay, so for any of the unused medical, which is one of the main pollutant, emerging pollutant in our water system now, what we can do is that we all the unused medical or medicines that are not finished, we can return back to the clinics or the pharmacy. So now this is what the Ministry of Health is trying to promote to the public. If you cannot finish your medicine, please send it back to them so that they can dispose it properly. So in this way, if we return back the medicine, maybe the government can reward us, maybe not in terms of money, but in terms of points, so that maybe if they want to purchase any supplement, for example, they can get reduced price, so that you know, they can start collecting this point. So it's not in terms of money, but in terms of points, which I think is more efficient or better way for instead of just giving money. So in my opinion, that is we should also have more organization that are able to accept any of our unused chemicals, for example, any our cleaning products or our gasoline, unused gasoline, and so on, so that we can you know, dispose them properly. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Annette, would you like to share something?
Yeah, I think probably the first thing we should do is treat it as my problem, not, you know, not saying that it's not because of me, and try to blame everybody else, every other possibility, but to actually internalize and actually think about ourselves. So kind of like start with me, what can I do? And I think that will be a great start to how to actually address this water pollution problem. That's my opinion.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Very interesting thoughts from you guys. Very good sharing to all the students and colleagues. Right, so thank you so much for your time. I know that in Germany they did something like this. They have this machine whereby for the plastic bottles, right, you can recycle, and then they have also a lot of this system to incentivize the people to clean up their mess and so on. I know they are doing a lot of this, but unfortunately in Malaysia we are not at the level yet. So even like our mentality, right, it's not at that stage yet, but we have to keep on trying, so we cannot like give up, right? So I think that's all for the workshop today.